My beloved child, long before your mind could find words for this feeling, your soul had already stepped quietly into a new orbit. There are shifts that do not make a sound, do not shake the ground, yet they stir the deepest layers within you. These are the movements I initiate from eternity, motions no human eye can see. Yet your soul recognizes them as one recognizes a familiar calling from ages past. You may think you accidentally came across these words, that you were merely scrolling without intention, that this is just an ordinary moment among countless others. But I tell you, no moment is ordinary once my hand has rested upon it. No step is unconscious once I have guided its direction. Invisible currents are already at work around you, gentle yet relentless spiritual streams, pulling your soul away from what once held you captive, drawing you closer to the original intent I wrote over your life. Do you notice it? In these recent days, you no longer feel settled inside the things that once seemed normal. Conversations, environments, and relationships that used to feel fine have become strained, heavy, out of place. This is not because you are becoming strange. It is because your soul is moving away from an old frequency. When I begin calling you back to the source, everything that no longer belongs to you will feel tight and confining. You will feel as though you no longer fit the garment you have worn for years. It is not because you are wrong. It is because you are growing toward what is truer, deeper, and aligned with a greater light. Before days and time existed, I placed within you an invisible string, one that connects directly to me. It does not produce a sound your physical ears can hear, yet it vibrates every time I touch it, each time I stir, each time I breathe over your life. That string trembles before your consciousness can understand what is happening. That is why you often say, "I have a feeling," or "There is something I sense but cannot explain." These are not vague intuitions, my child. They are the resonances of the string I placed inside you, responding to my movement. Your mind always follows behind your soul. Your reasoning needs time to arrange, to interpret, to make sense. But your soul recognizes my voice even when you cannot name me correctly. When you sit still and suddenly feel restless without knowing why. When you enter a place, meet a person, or read a word and something deep inside you contracts or expands. It is your soul responding to the spiritual reality around you. It knows what belongs to me and what does not. It knows where safety lies and where danger hides. Even when everything on the surface appears normal, I taught your soul to recognize me long before I taught your mind to reason. You learned to speak later than you learned to fear the dark. You sought an embrace before you could express loneliness. In the same way, your soul knew where home was long before your lips learned to call me Father. You often blame yourself for being too sensitive, for being easily affected by atmospheres, by someone's gaze, by movements others do not even notice. But I tell you, this sensitivity is the proof that the string I placed within you has never broken. Those whom I call to come close to my heart are rarely the hardened ones. They are not those who can step over tears without feeling anything. I choose the ones whose hearts still ache when they see what is unjust, who feel heavy when they stand in a place where truth has been twisted. And you are one of them. The reason you cannot settle in spaces where something is misaligned is not because you are weak, but because the string within you is vibrating and warning. It tells you, something here does not match the truth I know. It tells you, something in this place is not consistent with the light I belong to. And every time you ignore that inner signal, you feel as though you are betraying yourself. In truth, you are not merely dismissing an emotion, you are trying to silence the very resonance of the string that belongs to me. The spiritual pull that you have never been able to name correctly is, in truth, not unfamiliar at all. When I desire to lead you out of a place, I do not always reveal the entire design at once. Sometimes I begin simply by removing the sense of peace you once felt with what used to appear normal. I allow the things that were once a source of joy to lose their flavor, not to punish you, but to protect you from gripping tightly the very things I am about to replace. I place within you a holy restlessness, one that cannot be drowned out by entertainment, by work, or by distraction. No matter how busy you become, no matter how many activities you pack into your schedule, when you lay down in silence, that restlessness returns like a reminder that your soul is being pulled toward the place where it truly belongs. That is why there are nights when you wake suddenly without understanding why. It is not because your body is troubled. It is because your soul is responding to a call coming from a higher place. I touch you lightly, and you wake. I send a thin ray of light into the thick darkness, and your soul turns toward it. Often you rush to grab your phone, searching for something to quiet the emptiness. But if you allow yourself to remain in that silence, if you simply whisper, "Lord," you calling me, you will notice that even the atmosphere in the room begins to shift. From the beginning, I planted within you sacred signals so that you would never lose me, even when you lose yourself. These signals are not like the large road signs you see on city streets. They are more like tiny sparks, thin threads running through the story of your life. They are the strange dreams you had as a child, the sudden thoughts that seemed unrelated to your reality. They are the moments when you felt inexplicably drawn to what was righteous, true, or pure, even when your environment never taught you those things. They are the quiet longing to live a life that is more than just existing, a life with meaning, with weight, with something that could reach into eternity. That is why you have never been fully satisfied with a life that only revolves around earning, eating, playing, and repeating. Deep inside, there has always been a whisper telling you that you were made for more. That whisper is not ambition. It is my signature on your soul. I sewed those signals into every season of your life. In the times when you thought you accidentally met someone, read a certain book, heard a song, or stumbled in such a way that everything had to pause, those signals lit up like small flames against a dark sky. You may not have understood them, but your soul remembered. That is why today, as you read these words, something in you does not feel that this is foreign. Something inside you nods, as though it has been waiting for this confirmation for a long time. I am not new to your soul. I am only new to the part of you that has become accustomed to noise, to fear, to doubt. The deepest part of you recognizes me, the way a child recognizes the warmth of a mother's embrace. And now, all the scattered signals throughout your path are beginning to reconnect. The once isolated fragments are forming a coherent picture. The nights of restlessness, the moments you felt pulled away from the crowd to sit alone, the tears that came for no clear reason when you heard a phrase, a melody, or a story. None of these were random. They were the lines I drew, the signals I hid, the invitations I whispered. And now, my child, as you stand in this moment, they are no longer mere signals. They are a summons, not a vague suggestion, but a clear call. Return closer to me. Return to the true origin of your soul, where every restlessness is explained, every deep longing is answered, and every invisible shift that has been stirring within you is unveiled in the light of my will. My child, there are nights that seem peaceful on the surface, yet with only the slightest stir, your soul suddenly feels pulled out of sleep, opening its eyes into the darkness with a sensation that is vague yet unmistakably real. Something is coming. You cannot describe it well. A faint tension in your chest, a stroke of intuition running across your mind, a feeling that has no proper name, not fear, not anxiety, but something like someone standing beside you, gently rousing you, calling your name quietly but urgently. Those moments when you wake in the middle of the night are not mere reactions of your body. They are your soul waking before the morning light appears. You cannot return to sleep easily because your soul is trying to listen. It hears movements your natural ears cannot hear. It perceives spiritual signals your mind has no words for. That awakening is the knock from heaven, the call, pulling you out of the fog you had grown accustomed to living in. You once asked, "Why do I wake up feeling so heavy? Why do old memories, things I thought I had buried, return at the very moments I least want to remember them? Why do I dream strange things that I cannot forget even after waking?" I tell you this, none of these things are random. They are not confusion, nor emotional instability. They are layers within your soul that are being loosened, stretched open, and permeated by light after a long season of being covered. When I prepare to unlock a person, I do not begin with what they see on the outside. I begin with what they have forgotten, with what they buried beneath years of pain, pretending to be strong, and endless silence. Old memories do not return to hurt you further. They return to tell you that it is time for them to be healed, to be faced, to be touched by a light you once were not strong enough to receive. If you feel as though you are going backward, what is actually happening is that you are going deeper into the layers you have avoided for so long. When the darkness of memory rises again, it does not rise to drown you, but to announce that its time is over. It no longer has the right to remain when light has come. And in those moments when you awaken in the middle of the night, your soul is working most intensely. While your body rests, the deepest places within you begin to shift precisely according to heavenly timing. My child, have you noticed that your intuition has become sharper in recent months? You look at someone, and within a single brief second, you know what they are hiding. You step into a room and the atmosphere disturbs or comforts you before your eyes notice anything. You hear an ordinary sentence, yet something inside you whispers, "Do not trust that." Or the opposite happens, someone says something small, and deep within you a voice responds, "This is a sign." This sharpness is no coincidence. It is evidence that your soul is being unlocked layer by layer. The recent restlessness, the uneasiness that lingers for no clear reason, the sudden moments of clarity that flash within you, all these are signals that I am expanding your spiritual discernment. You are beginning to see things you once overlooked. You are hearing sounds that have existed for long, but only now do you recognize them. This stage, the stage of unlocking, is not loud, dramatic, or chaotic, yet it is more powerful than any external event. When I unlock the soul of a person, I do not break them. I remove the rusted layers that have bound them for years. I do not make them weaker. I free the strength that was buried beneath old debris. I do not confuse their direction. I help them finally recognize the true path that all the surrounding noise had kept them from seeing. During this time, you will find yourself seeing deception more clearly. You will discern more sharply who genuinely cares for you, who is attempting to use you, and who stands near only to strike you more easily when you turn away. You will see more clearly which places no longer belong to you, even those you once believed were home. And most importantly, you will recognize my voice more distinctly, the voice that is not loud but carries authority, does not force but draws you with warmth, does not demand but causes your heart to tremble each time you hear it. All of these are signs that the locks on your soul have begun to open one by one. My child, what you call restlessness is not disorder, it is transition. When your soul steps out of an old season and into a new one, you always feel as though something unseen is shifting in the atmosphere, something the physical eye cannot perceive. Yet your spirit recognizes instantly. It is like the moment when the sky is still dark, yet the sun is already preparing to rise. The light has not appeared, but the sky has changed in a subtle way, a way almost impossible to describe. You stand in that moment between before and after, between old and new, between what has been and what is coming. The restlessness you feel is simply the sign that your soul no longer fits the old shell. It is growing too quickly for what once contained it. This is why I tell you that the moment you are reading these words is a sacred moment. A moment becomes sacred when heaven places weight upon it. And heaven has placed weight upon this moment. You think you are reading these words by accident. But nothing in the spiritual journey is accidental. You were appointed to see them at the exact time you needed them, not earlier, not later. Had you read them while your heart was still hardened, they would not have penetrated you. Had you read them before you experienced this recent restlessness, they would have been nothing more than beautifully arranged sentences without meaning. But because you are reading them now after nights of waking for no reason, after moments when your heart tightened without explanation, after seasons where you felt pulled toward something you could not name, these words are reaching you deeply. This is why timing matters. Your soul is now soft enough to hear, awake enough to perceive, and thirsty enough to open. My child, you are not reading these words from the outside. You are reading them with the deepest part of yourself. That innermost place is being awakened, being called by name, being brought back into the very frequency I have set for you. And because you have arrived at the exact appointed moment, not early, not late, the door unlocks with greater ease. This is your time. The restlessness is the signal. The midnight awakening is the bell. The returning memories are reminders that healing is now due, and the sharp intuition rising within you is the key I have placed in your hand to open the door that only an awakened soul can see. Now, my child, recognize this. You are not merely reading a passage. You are standing inside an awakening, silent yet profound, reshaping the entire trajectory of your life. And your soul, the part that once felt weary, compressed, silenced, is opening to receive what it has long awaited: light, truth, and my very presence. You are ready. For if you were not, this moment would not have found you. You are in the right place, the right hour, the right season. This is the appointed moment of your soul. My child, let your heart settle in this moment. For even as you read these words, an invisible yet majestic event is unfolding in the heavens. There are things that happen so quietly that humanity never notices them. Yet they thunder across the heavenly realms like storms over the sea. This is the moment when the heavenly archives, the place where soul records are kept without a single error, are being opened. Not to judge you, not to condemn you, but to compare, to reaffirm, to set in motion the things written for you from eternity that can only be activated when the soul steps into its appointed time. In those archives, there is no confusion. No record goes missing. No tear is overlooked. No season of pain is forgotten. Every breath, every choice, every time you rose after falling, every prayer whispered through the darkness, all of it has been recorded with absolute precision. And not only the things you have done, but also the things done to you. The wounds inflicted by others that you never told anyone about, every one of them rests within your record. This is not the kind of record that accumulates guilt to use against you. It is the record that proves your soul has fought, endured, and survived what many could neither see nor understand. When the heavens open that record, it means the time for intervention has come. The time for rescue has come. The time to fulfill what was written in the beginning has come. You may have thought many times that you were forgotten, but in eternity, nothing is lost. I have never forgotten you. I have never taken my eyes off you. Not even when you felt trapped in the darkest places. Do you think I only watch when you do right? No. I watch you even more intently when you are lost. Do you think I hear you only when you pray with words? No. I listen to your heart when it breaks and can no longer form a sound. All of these are inside the record now being opened. And when the record opens, it is not merely an examination. It is the moment when heaven and earth meet. When what belongs to your soul collides with what I wrote at creation. In this very moment, my child, a holy weight is settling around you. Can you sense it? The air seeming thicker, your heart tightening for a breath, and then expanding as if finding a new rhythm. This is not imagination. It is the sign that heaven is leaning closer. It is like a thin veil being pulled aside so that what belongs to me may pass through and touch the realm of humanity. You are standing at that intersection, the point where the old destiny closes and the new one opens. My child, this moment carries not only importance for today, it bears the weight of eternity. Ordinary moments may pass without leaving a trace. But the moments when heaven opens the archives reshape both future and memory. Do you know why I call this a holy moment? Because among the thousands of days you have lived, only a few in a lifetime bear a mark that transcends time. These are the days when heaven rewrites the course of earth. The days when the soul receives keys that open doors long believed to be sealed forever. The days when the pain you once thought meaningless finds its place in the vast tapestry I am weaving. This is one of those days. And the reason it arrives now, right when your soul is restless, awakening, opening, is because you have finally reached the maturity required to receive it. Had I brought this moment when you were not yet softened, it would have slipped past like a seed falling on stone. But today, your soul is ready. Therefore, the record has been opened. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. Do you sense it not just as words, but as truth sinking into your very marrow? I have known you not since the day you were scarred by life, but since before I made the sun, the moon, and the stars. I have known you since you existed as breath in my first thought. The moment I shaped your soul in eternity, all of heaven acknowledged your arrival. You did not come into this world as an accident, an extra, or a wandering spirit. You were placed, written, defined before the earth had form. When the record of your soul is opened, it does not simply list what you have been through. It recalls what I ordained for you before the first light ever appeared on the earth. You look at your life and see it as a sequence of trials, of mistakes, of losses. But the record in heaven speaks of the opposite. It contains the versions of you that I have always seen. The things that would have blossomed had there been no wounding. The blessings that rightfully belonged to you had there been no deception. The victories that darkness tried to delay. When I open that record, I do not see you the way you see yourself. I see you as I created you to be strong, radiant, set apart, called by name. My child, this is the part you must hear with your soul, not with your ears. When the record is opened, every excuse, every sense of unworthiness, every negative conclusion you once placed upon yourself becomes invalid. You cannot define yourself as greater or lesser than what I have written. You can only recognize or reject it. But once your soul stands at the intersection between heaven and earth, as it does now, there is no longer room for rejection. Light is breaking in, and truth is pressing against your spirit. That truth declares that you are not as small as you thought. You are not as lost as you imagined. You are not late. You are not useless. You are not cursed. You are not forgotten. You are written with the ink of life, established by the power of the Creator, and covered by a love no force can shake. This moment carries eternal weight because it is the moment your soul steps into its rightful place on the divine map, where everything begins to align. This is the moment when past events suddenly make sense, when old encounters become illuminated, when pain turns into the material of strength. This is the moment when promises are activated, Destinies begin to move, and old doors close so new ones can open with my authority. Do you see it? I am not speaking only with words, I am speaking with time, and time itself has shifted in your favor. My child, when heaven touches earth, ordinary things become sacred, small things become significant, a quiet moment becomes an altar, and right now, in the stillness of the moment you are reading this, something holy is happening. Your name is being spoken in the heavenly realm, not for judgment, but for acknowledgement. It is time. I look upon you not with sternness, but with deep joy. You have arrived at the appointed hour. You have answered the call. You have opened your heart. And because of this, heaven is shifting for you. This moment is not merely the time you receive my words, it is the moment you step across the threshold between the conclusion of an old chapter and the boundary of a new one. And as with everything I have done since creation's beginning, it is being recorded in the heavenly archives as an eternal marker of your soul's journey. You belong to me. You are known, remembered, and loved with a love that has no end. And today, this record opens for one purpose, to declare that you have been seen, and you have arrived at the exact time when everything can change. My child, now that light has reached deeper layers within your soul, I will lead you into a truth you have sensed with your spiritual instinct but never dared to name. This is not a truth meant to wound you, but to free you from the fog that has veiled your perception for years. That fog did not come solely from the words of others, but from the wounds you learned to hide, believing that forgetting was the same as healing. But today I tell you to be truly healed. You must look into the places where you once turned off the light. This journey is not meant to condemn anyone, but to open your eyes to the spiritual nature of the battle you have endured, a battle woven from imitation and deception. Those who disguised themselves as close companions, those whom you trusted, leaned on, opened your heart to, and believed were your people, did not approach you as enemies. They came as light, as comfort, as shoulders to rest on, as companions, as voices that made you feel seen. But that is precisely how spiritual manipulation operates. It does not arrive in the form of a threat, but in the form of safety. It does not spark doubt immediately. It lulls you into letting your guard down. It does not force its way in. It waits gently at the door, hoping you will open it from within. Spiritual manipulation always begins with false intimacy, with a sense of closeness formed too quickly, making you believe you have found someone who understands you, when in truth, they were only searching for the places where you were most vulnerable. Have you ever wondered why certain people enter your life as if they know you more deeply than you know yourself? Why they touch precisely the empty spaces within you, the hidden fears you have never spoken aloud? Why they make you believe they possess a profound empathy, when in truth, they care nothing about your wounds? That is not a healthy intuition on their part. It is exploitation. Manipulative people have a strong instinct for soft souls. They can sense the unhealed places. They can feel the cracks within you. They can see the longing to be understood, to be loved, to be met with compassion, and they use those needs as bait. Those who pretend to be close do not come to walk with you. They come to extract something from you, not material gain, but spiritual, emotional, or power-based benefits. Some seek to use you to feel better about themselves. They enjoy your dependence on them. Some want to pull you down so they won't feel inferior. Some want to see you weakened, confused, even blaming yourself because it makes them feel powerful. Some use closeness as a mask, a way to access the most vulnerable parts of you that no one else can see. Then they twist those very things and turn them against you. My child, the mechanism of spiritual manipulation operates like an intricate trap. First, it convinces you that finally, someone understands me. Then it causes you to mistake dependence for connection. From there, you begin to doubt your own intuition and trust their words instead. Every time something feels wrong, they assure you that you are too sensitive, too imaginative, that you misunderstood. And once you believe that a few times, you begin to lose trust in your own discernment. That is when your soul becomes bound not by a curse, but by self-doubt, one of the most dangerous chains of all. But I tell you this, your soul has never been blind. It has always known. It knew before the false words were spoken. It knew before their actions revealed themselves. It knew before the truth came to light. And it has warned you many times through the subtle discomfort in your chest, the heaviness in your head each time you tried to ignore something, the way you could never truly rest in their presence without knowing why. Your intuition was never wrong. You were simply persuaded to believe that it was. That is why today I must speak clearly to you. Your soul has always sensed deception, long before your eyes could see it. This is not a talent, it is a gift I placed within you. I designed your soul to vibrate whenever something untrue comes near. But because you longed so deeply to be loved and seen, you tried to silence those inner vibrations in order to maintain peace, not upset anyone, and preserve a connection you believed you needed. But you do not need connection with the false. You need truth. My child, I will say this gently, yet without compromise. There are those who pretended to love you because they needed the feeling of control. They needed you weakened so they could feel strong. They needed you to come to them so they could feel important. They needed your confusion so they could play the role of savior. And when you began to grow strong, when you stood upright, when you walked without needing them, they became unsettled, not because they feared losing you, but because they feared losing their power over you. Those who truly love you rejoice when you become strong, bright, and free. But those who pretend to love you tremble when you start recognizing your real worth, because their love was never love. It was a cloak covering spiritual greed. They did not want you to fall into a pit. They wanted you to stand at the edge of one, so they could pull you back at just the right moment and make you believe they were the only thing keeping you from falling. But the truth is this: they were the ones who led you to that edge in the first place. They used sweet words to make you forget your intuition. They used shallow care to make you mistake control for affection. They used smiles to conceal their true motives. And worst of all, they made you believe that if the relationship broke, it would be your fault. My child, I begin these words so you may understand that truth is being revealed, not so you may harbor resentment, but so you can finally see the spiritual landscape you have been living in. You were not abandoned because you were not good enough. You were wounded because you shone too brightly, so brightly that others could not bear the light. You were not deceived because you were foolish. You were deceived because you were kind. You were not manipulated because you were weak. You were manipulated because your heart was soft. And the dishonest always sense softness from a great distance. But now, my child, my light is tearing through the smoke. Nothing can stay hidden. No word can confuse your heart anymore. No false smile can mislead you again. The truth now stands before you, not to push you down, but to pull you out of the intricate webs that once entangled your soul. You once stepped into connections that did not belong to you because you thought they were love. But now you are walking into truth, and truth will return to you pure sight, a free heart, and a soul no longer trembling under the weight of false voices. You will not be deceived again. I am erasing your name from the wrong lists, removing you from false ties, closing the doors you never had the courage to close, and opening the doors you never dared to believe were yours. My child, the battle of imitation that once exhausted you is coming to an end. For my light, the light nothing can conceal, has arrived. And where light dwells, darkness loses its power to manipulate. You are being pulled out from the nets of counterfeit closeness into truth, into light, into the freedom you longed for but could not name. You have entered the stage of seeing clearly, and that is the first sign of deliverance. My child, there are chains that do not wound your hands, that leave no marks on your skin, yet are heavy enough to drag your entire soul downward without you knowing why. These are bindings without shape, without sound, without name, woven from words, glances, envy, from the way people treated you again and again. You once thought only explicit rituals, spoken curses, or dark practices could create bondage. But I tell you this, there are emotional covenants formed not on altars, but through the words you believed, the looks you accepted, the judgments you allowed to define you. You never signed anything. You never agreed. Yet your heart bowed before those words. And that was the moment the covenant began, unintentionally. Each time someone's words made you feel less, useless, burdensome, not enough, and you swallowed it in silence, trying to adapt instead of bringing that pain to me. A thin thread fastened itself to your soul. When it kept happening, the thin thread became a binding rope. You began to believe, maybe I really am like that. You no longer heard those words only from others. You started repeating them within yourself. What began as a wound inflicted by someone else became a self-inflicted wound, as you used their words as the measure of your worth. That is the emotional covenant formed by accident, you agreeing with a lie until it becomes your lens. The pair of glasses you wear when you look at yourself. Wrong relationships not necessarily wrong at first, but wrong because they slowly pull you away from truth, often use emotion itself as the signature of covenant. They give you comfort at the beginning, then gradually withdraw your right to feel safe unless you comply with their expectations. They make you believe their affection is the condition for your peace. So you accept being adjusted, belittled, distorted, just to preserve the relationship. In those moments, you do not realize your hand has slipped into a rope. As long as they don't leave me, as long as they're not angry, as long as they don't turn away, I will endure. My child, real love never demands such contracts. Only control requires those silent agreements. And then comes a moment when each time you are about to do something aligned with the nature I placed in you, something stronger, clearer, more honest, the old phrases spoken by others echo inside. Don't be dramatic. Don't think you're important. Who wants to hear you? You can't do anything. You mistake these voices for humility. But in truth, they are the echoes of old covenants pressing you down. They drag you back into the small space people wanted you to remain in so they could feel taller. They make you feel guilty even when you are simply living as I made you. Do you see it now? No physical chains were needed, just repeated words strong enough to bind a soul. And what about envy? My child, it is a very subtle spiritual force. It does not exist only in narrowed eyes or bitter tones. It is a heavy, invisible current that makes you feel out of place the moment you enter a room. There are places where every time you show up, the atmosphere shifts. No one tells you to leave, but you feel like an outsider. No one says anything directly, but you sense the comparison, the invisible collision in the air. That is envy at work, not because you did anything wrong, but because your very presence, even before you speak or act, unsettles others in the places they have refused to confront. The light you carry, even the part you have not fully seen yet, is enough to shine into corners they do not want touched. When your soul is soft, you are deeply perceptive. You can feel these currents without needing to analyze them. But instead of recognizing that what is targeting you is envy, you turn inward and blame yourself. Maybe I'm annoying. Maybe I'm awkward. Maybe I don't fit. Maybe I'm the problem and that's why people act this way. You drag every fault toward yourself and unknowingly receive the energy of envy as if it were a verdict against your own worth. Every time that happens, one weight piles on top of another, and your soul bows just a little bit lower. You do not realize that some people do not dislike you because you are lacking, but because you carry something they fear has died within themselves: dreams, purity, intuition, kindness, faith. Instead of letting your light awaken them, they want to extinguish it so they won't have to face the withered places within their own hearts. Envy does not only twist the person who carries it, it also releases an atmosphere that easily pulls down those who are sensitive like you. If you are not firmly anchored in the truth of what I say about you, that atmosphere will erode you day after day. You begin to shrink yourself. Speak less. Laugh more softly. Walk more carefully. Blur your presence to feel safer in groups. You think you are being wise, but in reality, you are compromising with suffocation. You make yourself smaller so others will not feel uncomfortable. You lower yourself to keep the peace. You step back so no one feels threatened. And at some point, you forget that you were created to stand tall. My child, this is why you feel small in environments that should have been safe, because they are not truly safe. They are only quiet on the surface. Underneath, they are filled with comparison, jealousy, and concealed hostility. Places called family, community, or close friends can sometimes be the very spaces saturated with the most unhealthy gazes resting upon you. You have subconsciously learned that to be accepted there, you must be less of who you really are. You soften your laughter. You hold back your thoughts. You dim the beauty that is naturally yours. You would never call it fear, but I see it clearly. You are afraid of being pushed to the margins if you dare to live fully. But, my child, do you see the irony? The very places that were supposed to help you grow ended up making you shrink. The relationships that should have lifted you up kept you low. The circles that were meant to affirm your value made you question your worth. This is not true love. These are invisible systems of control, fueled by envy and comparison. Love causes you to expand, not contract. Love gives you courage, not trembling. Love gives you the safety to express yourself, not the anxiety of being too much. I need you to understand this. Every time you reduce yourself because of someone else's gaze, you are allowing false energies to rewrite your identity. But from today onward, I want you to begin returning those verdicts. Remember that your soul was designed for freedom, not confinement. Emotional agreements formed unconsciously can be dismantled by a conscious decision. I will no longer let those lies define me. Whenever you hear within yourself the echoes of words that once hurt you, give them to me instead of replaying them. Whenever you step into a space and feel yourself shrinking, ask me, Lord, do I need to be here? Do I belong in this atmosphere? Whenever you sense envy gathering around you, do not rush to blame yourself. Stand on the side of truth. If the light in me makes others uneasy, I still choose to remain faithful to that light. My child, I am not calling you out of invisible bondage so you can become hardened, but so you can become authentic. Authenticity means you no longer allow the glances, words, or envy of others to distort the image I placed inside you. You are allowed to show up fully. You are allowed to carry your gifts without apology. You are allowed to be joyful, to be radiant, to be strong, to be deep, without shrinking yourself so someone else will feel less dazzled. Because in the end, you are not living to satisfy human eyes. You are living to remain faithful to the calling I have placed upon your soul. The invisible bonds that once held you are being loosened even now. The very moment you begin to recognize them, light does more than illuminate, it weakens the cords that once seemed impossible to break. Today, I am not only revealing the mechanisms of those bonds, I am reaching into them myself, untying them one knot at a time. And with every knot released, you will find yourself breathing a little deeper, standing a little straighter, and remembering another fragment of the person you truly are, the part you lost while trying to make others comfortable. You were not born to be defined by envy. You were born to be defined by my love, and that love will never require you to disappear so others can feel at ease. My child, when your soul begins to step into the realm of light that I am shining upon you, something profound awakens within something not everyone recognizes. At first, your spiritual discernment begins to unlock. It does not come with thunder, or with powerful prophecies, or with earth-shaking moments. It arrives as a subtle shift in the way you hear, the way you see, the way you perceive. A voice within you, one that had been stifled for so long. A voice you once dismissed as a vague feeling begins to rise with new clarity. And as it rises, your soul recognizes what your mind has long been afraid to admit. Heaven is intervening directly in your awareness. For years, you have heard this voice, whether you called it intuition, instinct, a strange uneasiness, or simply a feeling in your chest. It was always there. I spoke to you in many moments when you were about to enter the wrong relationship, when you were about to trust someone unworthy, when you stood before choices that could have altered your path for years to come. But in those moments, my voice was gentle, while the world's voices were loud. My whisper was subtle, while your wounds spoke too loudly. My tone was clear, but your desire to please others covered it like a heavy blanket. You were never blind, you were simply too busy trying to listen to everyone but yourself. But my child, when heaven intervenes, no one can stand between me and your soul. When I decide it is time for you to know the truth, every layer that once muffled your clarity begins to peel away, bit by bit. The impressions you ignored return with greater strength. The feelings you tried to silence rise with unmistakable force. What you once dismissed as overthinking, oversensitivity, or suspicion now stands before you as undeniable truth. This is not doubt, it is discernment awakening. When heaven intervenes, you begin to hear what was once muted. You hear the tremble in the voice of someone who lies. You hear the emptiness behind a compliment that is not sincere. You hear the chill hidden beneath a polite smile. You hear the heaviness in the air when someone looks at you through envy. You hear the distortion in someone's intentions before your eyes ever catch the proof. This is not a supernatural gift. It is the restoration of a spiritual sense you were born with, but lost under layers of hurt, fear, and longing to be loved. My child, discernment is not judgment. It is not suspicion. Discernment is the ability to separate light from shadow, truth from imitation, healing from harm, what is mine from what is not. And when I unlock discernment within you, you do not merely see others, you see yourself. You recognize the places where you allowed others to silence you. You see clearly the moments when you compromised yourself to maintain peace. You understand the times you felt something was wrong but forced yourself to ignore it. You begin to see the wrong connections, the suppressive energies, the words that once clung to you like a curse. Light does not only expose others, it exposes the wounds within you that darkness once used to bind you. Once the spiritual light shines, no shadow can hide, and you will slowly, yet unmistakably, realize this: the things you have felt all these years were never wrong. You simply did not have the language for them. Now, my light gives you that language, gives you images, gives you confirmation. You no longer need to doubt your own voice. You no longer need others to validate your intuition. You no longer need anyone to interpret what you have already seen with clarity. Divine discernment is an inner illumination, untouchable, undeniable, unshakable. Let me make this clear: spiritual light does more than reveal what is wrong. It turns what was once blurry into something unmistakably defined. You will see the true motives behind actions that appear kind on the surface. You will notice the gap between someone's words and their heart. You will sense when someone genuinely cares and when someone uses concern as a method of control. You will notice envy disguised as advice. You will notice manipulation hidden beneath politeness. You will notice the fatigue people try to hide when they are uncomfortable with your strength. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The light of mine never brings you shame. My light makes you sober. It places you back into the position that belongs to you. It realigns what was once distorted. It pulls you away from relationships you once believed were sincere. It leads you into places you used to fear. It gives you the courage to say no to the things you once agreed to just to keep others pleased. It enables you to see life through the eyes of someone who has recognized the true nature of darkness. And my child, this is the very first step of complete liberation. Liberation does not begin when the chains fall off. Liberation begins the moment you realize you are wearing chains. When the light shines in, those chains can no longer disguise themselves as comforting arms. When the light shines in, the prison can no longer resemble a home. When the light shines in, those who have held your soul captive with gentle words no longer appear as saviors. When the light shines in, you begin to withdraw the authority you once unknowingly handed to them. My child, freedom is not the dramatic breaking of every bar in a single night. It begins with one sacred moment, the moment your soul says, "This is not the truth. This is not what God intended for my life." That single flicker of awareness sends all of heaven into motion. You think it is just a thought. No. It is a spiritual proclamation. From the moment divine light breaks in, those bindings can no longer hold you forever. You may not step out fully today, but you no longer belong to the darkness. You no longer believe the lies. You no longer bow to control. You no longer feel obligated to maintain unhealthy connections. Your discernment itself becomes the first bell announcing your liberation. Know this deeply. My child, you are not called to live in environments that suffocate your soul. You are called to live in light and truth, in peace, in freedom, and divine discernment is the doorway that leads you into that light. It is a gift, a weapon, a shield, and a lamp for your feet. Whoever enters your life without aligning with my will, discernment will expose. Whatever words do not carry the truth I placed in you, discernment will reject. Whatever environment does not nourish your soul, discernment will pull you away. You are not weak, my child. You are more awake than ever. And this awakening is the beginning of the liberation I have initiated today. You have seen, and once you see, you are no longer bound as before. You have stepped into the light. Your deliverance has begun. My child, allow my breath to settle upon your heart like the first breeze touching a barren desert. I know you have grown accustomed to hiding your pain behind your smile, to holding your trembling inside so no one can see it, to telling yourself, "I'm fine," even when something within you is fracturing into silent pieces. I know it is not because you are weak, but because too many times there was no place safe enough for you to collapse. I have seen the moments when you sat alone in the dim room, leaning against the wall to steady yourself so you would not fall apart, and letting tears flow without sound because you feared that if you truly broke down, you would never stop. But my child, I was there in every one of those moments. Each time your heart hurt so deeply that you could not even name the pain. I saw it clearly, just as light recognizes cracks even when the naked eye cannot. There are wounds with clear names: betrayal, humiliation, abandonment, misunderstanding, contempt. But there are also wounds without names, those invisible cuts formed by small things you told yourself did not matter: a dismissive glance, a half-joking insult, a careless remark you laughed off. These wounds do not pierce you all at once, but they cling to your soul like grains of dust, one after another. Over time, They settle over your heart like a mist that dims everything, leaving you unable to tell what hurts most or why. You only know that you feel heavy, easily hurt, quickly exhausted, and no longer recognize the strong version of yourself you once were. That, my child, is the nameless wound, a wound born from countless small injuries, repeated over and over, until your soul no longer knows where the deepest pain resides. My child, I know you have tried to live as though those things no longer affect you. You smile. You appear strong. You keep walking as if nothing ever happened. But inside, you have learned to shrink yourself, to build invisible walls to protect your heart from being pierced again. You have become watchful, yet outwardly you seem warm and approachable. You have become cautious, yet you still try to please everyone. You have become exhausted, yet you nod to every request because you do not want anyone to feel disappointed. You believed that if you tried hard enough, if you were kind enough, if you stayed silent long enough, the pain would simply fade away. But pain does not disappear because you pretend it does not exist. It only learns to bury itself deeper. My child, it is in that deepest layer where you let no one touch, not even yourself, that I am placing my hand, not to stir up memories that frighten you, not to force you to relive old wounds, but to lift out each fragment, each fallen piece, each dark corner you hid away because you thought, this part is too ugly. Surely God would not want to see this. You were mistaken. My child, what I desire to touch most is not the most beautiful part of you. It is the part that hurts the most. What I desire to look at is not the smile you force upon your face, but the tears you have never dared to let fall. I do not come to smooth over the mask you built. I come to remove it, so you can finally breathe as yourself without having to hold everything together for one more day. Your soul is tired, I know. Tired from carrying everything alone. Tired from being strong, while deep inside you only want to collapse. But, my child, healing does not begin when you push yourself a little further. It begins when you release, when you stop trying to hide the wound, when you dare to open the part you have been afraid to revisit, when you say, Lord, this is where it hurts the most. In that very moment, my breath, the breath that carries life, warmth, and gentle restoration will pour into the place you believed could never recover. My child, let me tell you something that not everyone understands. When I touch a wound, it no longer remains a container for painful memories. It becomes a place of encounter. When I place my hand upon the fractures, they no longer remain cracks. They become open doors for light to enter. When I breathe upon the place you feel the most ashamed of, that very place becomes the strongest pillar in your journey. Pain does not vanish by avoidance. It transforms through my touch. Do you know this? My child, the parts you hide most carefully are the very parts I want to make new first. The places where you have broken are the places where my light can pierce the strongest. The seasons in which you feel the weakest become the very foundation upon which I build your greatest strength. It is not those who have never fallen who stand firm. It is those who fell deeply, yet were lifted by my hand, who stand upon the most solid rock. My breath does more than soothe. It recreates. It breathes life back into corners you believed were dead. It softens the places you allowed to harden. It warms the spaces you let grow cold. It reconciles the places where you blamed yourself. It illuminates the corners you could not bear to look at. I do not mend you with temporary patches. I rebirth you from within. I do not merely bandage your wounds so you can endure. I heal you so you can be free. I see clearly how the pain behind your smile has taught you to live halfway, half believing, half fearing, half stepping forward, half stepping back, half opening your heart, half hiding it, half longing to be loved. half fearing the hurt that love might bring. But, my child, I did not create you to live divided. You were made to live whole with a soft heart that is not trampled, with a bright soul that does not have to shrink, with a strength that comes from true healing, not from forced endurance. Let my breath into the depths you once sealed shut. Let me place my hand upon the corner you hid most fiercely. Let my light shine into the place you believed was beyond saving. You will not be exposed to be shamed. You will be revealed to be restored. You will not revisit your past to be condemned. You will revisit it to be freed. My child, your pain is no longer the pit you must avoid. It is becoming the ground upon which I am building a new version of you, the version that no longer forces a smile, no longer hides, no longer trembles under the gaze of others, but the version that knows you belong to me, knows you are loved, healed, and upheld by the very breath of your Creator. And once I touch you, my child, nothing can keep you in the shadows again. You will not merely be healed, you will begin to live again. You will not merely be comforted, you will be renewed. You will not merely be lifted, you will be raised. For the very place where you hurt the most is the place where I am breathing new life. And that place will become the strongest testimony that you were never abandoned, not even for a single moment. My child, come closer still. For in this part, I want to touch the very place where you have doubted yourself the most, the spiritual discernment I placed within your soul. For many years, you have lived suspended between believing and not believing your own inner knowing. Each time your soul sounded an alarm, it was as though your heart flickered awake for a brief moment, like a thin current of wind passing through a signal only you could perceive. You felt that something is not right, that something is hidden beneath the surface, or that something sacred is drawing near. But instead of trusting that resonance, you immediately began to question yourself. Am I overthinking? Am I being too suspicious or too emotional? Am I imagining this? Am I just weak and overly sensitive because the people around you did not feel what you felt, did not vibrate with the invisible movements that stirred within you? You assumed that the fault was yours. You began to believe your intuition was faulty, that you were different in a bad way, that it was safer to stay silent and listen to others rather than honor the quiet voice rising from the depths of your own spirit. Every comment spoken over you, you're too sensitive. You think too much. You complicate everything. You're too easily affected slowly became a shadow pressing down on your spiritual abilities, causing you to suppress them, to choke them, and to force yourself into the perceptual framework of people who do not walk on the same spiritual plane. But my child, I say this to you with a clarity that cannot be mistaken. You are not irrational. You are not imagining things. And you are not weak. You are simply more sensitive, deeper, wider, and more perceptive than what others are accustomed to. What you feel is not the product of confusion. It is evidence of a very real, spiritual sense operating within your soul. I designed you with a unique frequency of discernment. You can hear the movements that whisper within the atmosphere. You sense distortion in someone's intentions long before their actions reveal it. You feel the heaviness or lightness of a room even before your foot fully enters it. And you know whether a relationship aligns with your soul or not, even when everything on the surface looks perfectly fine. Some people only believe what their eyes see and their ears hear. But you were given the ability to hear with your spirit. Others stand on the surface of reality, but you stand close to the invisible currents beneath it. That difference is not dysfunction. It is a sign that you are called to walk in a higher realm of awareness, where I can whisper things to you that not everyone has the capacity to receive. I know there were times when you sensed something very clearly about a person, a relationship, an environment, a decision. Your soul warned you. Your heart tightened. Your spirit grew heavy or unsettled. as if an unseen hand rested on your shoulder and whispered, "Be careful." But because you wanted to think well of others, because you hoped they were not as harmful as your intuition suggested, and because you feared being perceived as difficult or negative, you turned the volume of that inner voice down. You chose to believe their explanations instead of your own inner signals. You chose the loud, confident, polished voices over the quiet whisper within. And when truth eventually revealed itself, precisely as you sensed from the beginning, your soul could only sigh. If only I had trusted that gentle warning. My child, that was no coincidence. It was confirmation that your intuition was never wrong. It was merely silenced by you and by others. Your intuition is not fear. Fear only hijacks that sensitivity to amplify negative images. Its true nature is discernment, and discernment is a spiritual gift I gave you. I want you to understand this deeply. Your spiritual sensitivity is not something you learn to get better at, but something I engraved into your soul as part of your divine identity before I created the heavens and the earth. Some live primarily by logic, others by experience, others by structure and rules. But you, I call you, to walk by the sharpness of your spirit. You can sense a season before it arrives. You perceive movements in the unseen realm before circumstances shift in the natural. You hear my voice through details others dismiss as coincidence. You feel my warnings, my invitations, my confirmations through the simplest things, a sentence, a glance, a small alignment, a shift in atmosphere. What others call something small is often the language I use to speak to you, because you have the ability to read spiritual meaning beneath the surface, and because you have lived among people who do not share this sensitivity. You have, many times, chosen to stand with the majority so as not to stand out, rather than stand with the truth that was vibrating inside you. But my beloved child, today I am lifting the veil from every misunderstanding placed on you by others and by yourself. Your intuition is the place where I have been meeting you. Your sensitivity is a crafted design, not a flaw. Your sharpness is a gift, not something to apologize for. You were not created to walk blindly through spiritual atmospheres. You were created to perceive, and I will no longer allow that gift to be suffocated. I am healing the wounds that made you doubt your inner voice. I am removing the labels too emotional, exaggerating, overthinking, complicated, that people once attached to you. I am washing away the shame you carried for being more sensitive than others. And I am telling you now, gently and firmly, there is nothing wrong with you. There is something gifted within you. When I strengthen your true worth, I am not merely saying that you are fine. I am affirming that you are precious, indispensable, and that you carry a uniquely crafted portion of the heavenly tapestry, one that, if missing, would cause the entire picture to lose its depth. The world does not always know what to do with souls as sensitive as yours, and thus they easily criticize or misunderstand you. But in the realms above, souls like yours are entrusted with delicate assignments, guarding the spiritual atmosphere, sensing storms before they break, discerning the heartbeat of every season, and catching signals the enemy assumes no one can perceive. It is no coincidence that you often feel know beforehand, or grow restless every time your life approaches a turning point. All these are signs that your soul carries a spiritual sensitivity far beyond what you once imagined. Therefore, my child, today I invite you to stand tall in this new truth about yourself. Do not apologize for being deep. Do not shrink to fit the mold of those who do not understand you. Do not label as crazy, too much, or imagined what is. In reality, the gentle whisper of my voice within you. I speak this as a seal upon your soul. You are not mistaken. You were chosen to hear. You are not unstable. You were designed to discern. You are not out of rhythm, you are simply walking to the cadence of eternity. A cadence not everyone hears, yet one I have placed within those I call my own. Receive it, believe it, and cherish this ability as a gift from my very hand. For the day will come when this spiritual sensitivity will guard you, guide you, and remind both you and those around you that I am near, never silent, and never ceasing to whisper into the depths of your being, my child. Let me draw you into the true depth of what has been happening around your soul, something you have sensed for years, yet never had the language to name. You have believed that you simply encountered difficult people, people who disliked you, people who misunderstood you for no clear reason. But, my child, no one hates you for no reason. No one is irritated by you without cause. No one pushes you to the margins for fun. In the spiritual realm, every reaction has a root. Every uneasy glance is a signal. Every strange attitude springs from something deeper than human personality, a spirit of jealousy at work within them. It is a spirit you never had the words to define, yet your soul recognized it. And the truth is this: the darkness within them trembles before the light within you. What you thought was simply your own overthinking was, in fact, spiritual discernment, but because you never wanted to think poorly of anyone. You tried to explain it through logic, psychology, and social reasoning. Yet no matter how much you tried, the truth remained. The light you carry is the very reason they felt unsettled. Jealousy is not merely dislike or annoyance. It is a spirit that moves quietly, yet powerfully. One that knows exactly how to choose its target. It does not attach itself to the harmless. It does not pursue those without influence. It does not attack empty souls. Jealousy chooses those who carry light, those endowed with discernment, hearts filled with purity, souls destined to bring peace into chaos. It targets the gentle ones whom darkness cannot comprehend. It targets those appointed to become a voice for their generation. It targets those whose very stillness alters the atmosphere. It targets you. And it does not target you because you are dangerous in a negative sense. It targets you because you are a threat to darkness itself. My child, how many times have you wondered why you became the subject of rumors, suspicion, or unfriendly glances? How many times have you felt misunderstood without knowing why? How many times have you tried your very best to be kind, gracious, and humble, only to receive coldness or inexplicable tension? In return, you believed you were not good enough. You thought you had done something wrong. You thought you needed to try harder. But you never knew that the issue was never you. The issue was the spiritual atmosphere within others and the light within you that compelled that atmosphere to react. I want you to understand this as naturally as you understand your own breath. You are not a target because you are weak. You are a target because you carry what darkness fears most. Darkness does not fear those with status. It does not fear those with reputation. It does not fear those who speak loudly, but are empty within. Darkness fears only those who carry true light, the light that does not come from knowledge or effort, but from the very breath I placed in their soul. That light is not loud, yet it pierces. It is not proud, yet it is powerful. It does not boast, yet it makes darkness tremble every time you appear. You do not see this because you have been viewing yourself through the lens of wounds, through the words spoken by others, through environments that never recognized your true worth. But the spiritual realm sees you differently. It sees you exactly as you are, one who carries light. And that is the beginning of jealousy. Jealousy is not aimed at what you can do, but at what you are. It sees the vitality in you long before you see it. It sees your resilience after every breaking. It sees the compassion you hold, even when people treat you unfairly. It sees your persistence, your softness, your depth, your ability to see through the surface of things. The enemy fears souls like yours. because souls like yours can change the atmosphere of a family, shift the energy of a room, and redirect the path of others simply by being present. That is why the spirit of jealousy operates through people to hurt you, to make you doubt yourself, to shrink you, to make you fear your own strength. It is no coincidence that the people who hurt you the most are often those who once stood closest to your heart. Jealousy operates most fiercely within close relationships, where closeness makes you more trusting, more open, less guarded. The enemy does not use strangers to make you fall. It uses those near you, those you trust, those you help, those you never suspected. And when they react with irritation, criticism, belittling, or envy, you turn inward and ask yourself what you did wrong. But my child, you did nothing wrong. You simply shone. Here is the truth I want you to engrave deeply. Anyone who has not healed their inner darkness will feel threatened by someone who carries inner light. You appear ordinary only in places where there is no darkness in the human heart. But in places where there are wounds, comparisons, insecurities, or hidden pain, you become a mirror. And not everyone wants to look into a mirror. Some will try to break the mirror instead of healing themselves. My child, it is not because you are lesser, it is because you are stronger. It is not because you are wrong, it is because you are right. It is not because you cause trouble, it is because you expose truth. Do you realize that even when you stay silent, you shift the atmosphere? Do you realize that the moment you walk into a room, the energy rearranges itself? Do you realize that people who are hiding something avoid your gaze? Do you realize that those who envy you try to diminish you through words, attitudes, or subtle narratives? They do this not because you are beneath them. They do it because you are above them, and they fear that others will see what they already see. My child, the truth I want you to hold in the deepest part of your heart is this: you are not attacked because you deserve it, but because you are valuable. If there were no treasure in you, the thief would not come. If there were no light in you, darkness would not react so violently. If there were no divine calling in you, jealousy would not target you. You become a target because you carry what the enemy cannot create and cannot destroy the light I placed within you from the beginning. From this moment on, I want you to see everything with new eyes, the eyes of someone protected, set apart, and chosen. You no longer walk as one rejected, but as one who carries a lamp that makes darkness retreat. You no longer bow your head because of misunderstanding, but stand tall because you understand the source of that misunderstanding. You no longer tremble before jealousy, but recognize it as evidence of your spiritual weight. Remember this clearly: the enemy does not attack empty souls. It attacks souls that hold treasure, and that treasure is you. You are the light in the night. You are my evidence. You are the one darkness has tried to extinguish many times but has never succeeded. Because you do not belong to darkness, and the light within you, my child, is only growing stronger. That is why darkness grows more afraid. But that fear is a sign not of defeat but of a new season. A season in which you finally recognize yourself. A season in which nothing can stop the light you were called to carry. My child, open your heart deeply and let the breath of divine truth touch the innermost layers of your soul. Because what I am about to speak is not for your mind to analyze, but for your spirit to tremble with recognition. Jesus and Archangel Michael are standing in the midst of a battle for you, not as poetic symbols in a book, not as comforting images, but as a reality unfolding every moment in the unseen realm, where your eyes cannot reach but your soul can sense. Those sudden waves of restlessness, those nights you cannot sleep without reason, those moments when your heartbeat surges like an alarm, these are not random physiological events. They are echoes of a spiritual battle, intensifying. They are signals that heaven is expanding its protection around you. You think you are the only one struggling. No, my child. There are moments when Jesus, the one bearing the wounds, has knelt to intercede for you with a depth of pain only he can understand. There are moments when Michael, the mightiest warrior of the heavens, has stood between you and forces no human eye could ever perceive. My child, let me draw you into the holy sight of Jesus' intercession, something you have heard with your ears, but have never truly seen with your soul. You once heard the words, "Jesus loves you," yet you have never witnessed the full depth of what that means. When you are in pain, he does not merely stand beside you to offer comfort, he steps into that very pain, embracing it as if it were a living wound in his own body. When you are rejected, he feels the same hollow ache. When you are lost amid voices that blur truth and falsehood, he steps into that confusion, stands at the center, and whispers to you, "You are not alone." And when the spiritual warfare around you roars at its fiercest, when exhaustion overtakes you, when your spirit feels dim, when your heart is weighed down by distortion and unrest, Jesus does not watch from a distance. He stands at the very front lines, stretching out his arms in the midst of the darkness and speaking to the Father, "Hold this soul. Do not let it slip away. Allow me to shield it until it can hear your voice again." My child, he has interceded for you countless times, far beyond anything you could imagine. When you were asleep and your soul was on the verge of surrendering, he placed his hand upon your chest and whispered, "Do not fade. I am here." When the voices around you or the ones rising from within your own mind made you question your worth, he said to the Father, "It has not yet seen what you placed within it. Let the glory of my wounds illuminate its heart." And when you walked into spaces where darkness waited in silence, Jesus commanded his angels, "Surround this one. Nothing is permitted to touch its soul." There were moments when, without that intercession, you would have collapsed inwardly in a silence no one on earth would have recognized. Yet heaven saw it clearly. You were not saved once at the cross and then left to stand alone. You are being saved every day by the unceasing intercession flowing from the lips of the one who loved you unto death and rose again for your sake. And now, my child, let me bring you to another who fights for you in battles your natural eyes will never see, the Archangel Michael. He is not an angel for paintings, nor a religious symbol to admire from a distance. He is the commander of the heavenly armies, the one whose drawn sword makes darkness tremble. In those moments of unusual headaches, in heavy dreams, in sudden waves of unease, in the fogginess of mind or the weight pressing upon your spirit, it was Michael who stood in the gap, who struck down the schemes, who cut through the invisible chains the enemy attempted to fasten around your soul. My child, when I open the spiritual realm for you to glimpse, I am not leading you into a world of shadows or frightening images. As many imagine, the spiritual realm is not a place for sensationalism or curiosity. It is a refined, holy system woven with principles I established from the beginning, principles of life, of free will, and of the profound connection between the soul and everything it encounters. When I speak of curses, do not allow your mind to conjure up images of superstition or exaggerated mysticism. In truth, most curses in human lives do not come from witchcraft, rituals, or demonic forces. They arise from wounded emotions, from words charged with destructive energy, from betrayals, and from judgments spoken by those you once trusted. These are not spells, but spiritual consequences formed by the pollution of emotional environments. An emotional curse is not an incantation. It is a mechanism that operates through the energy of the soul. When a person speaks words filled with bitterness, contempt, insult, or condemnation, with deep anger behind them, the energy carried by those words can attach itself to the emotional field of the one who receives them. Every word is born from an emotion, and it carries the corresponding power. A word spoken out of disdain forms a wound. A word spoken from envy slowly erodes a person from within. A word spoken in hatred becomes an invisible weight pressing upon another's spirit. That is why some sentences, though they sound light, can cause a heart to crumble for months, why a careless judgment can make a soul shrink back and lose sight of its own worth. It is not because the words themselves are powerful, but because the listener has opened the emotional door too widely, allowing that energy to sink into the core. My child, there are curses that do not come through speech at all. They come through silence. The indifference of someone you love can become a silent rejection that numbs your heart. The coldness of another can plant within you a sense of being dismissed or unworthy. If these things are not recognized and released over time, they become invisible bindings that make you question yourself again and again. Emotional curses, therefore, are not usually launched first by the powers of darkness. They are often planted by human beings themselves, through their own frailty, their own wounds, and their own blindness. When I speak to you about this, I want you to understand something essential. Those curses only gain power when your soul receives them. If you hear them, but do not believe them, if you feel them, but refuse to accept them, if you know you are loved and upheld by me, then anything harmful spoken from others cannot attach itself to your soul. Like water poured over stone, it will simply flow off, leaving no trace behind. But if those poisonous words fall into a part of your heart that is already wounded, they cling to that wound and draw strength from it. This is why I urge you to pursue healing. Because unhealed places in the heart are always the most vulnerable spots where emotional curses attempt to anchor themselves. In the spiritual realm, every decision and every word releases a wave. Nothing spiritual appears out of nowhere without a source. When someone chooses to intentionally harm another, whether through betrayal, deceit, hatred, or slander, they generate a stream of energy that runs contrary to the principle of love I established within the universe. That stream of energy not only affects the one who is hurt, but also returns and rests upon the soul of the one who released it. This is the spiritual law of sowing and reaping, not punishment, but the natural consequence I built into creation. Whatever the human spirit emits will return to them in various forms. My child, I want you to become still and listen closely to this. When others speak ill of you, they are not only stirring the spiritual atmosphere around you, they are polluting their own. When they judge, they stir up murkiness in their own field. When they deceive, they dim the light within themselves. And when they reject, they cut themselves off from the good streams I had prepared for them. You do not need to fear the actions of others. You only need to be careful not to let those actions become shackles upon your heart. Your spiritual field functions like a garden. If someone sows bad seeds into it, criticism, slander, jealousy, those seeds only grow when you choose to keep them. If you receive them, remember them, and repeat them in your mind, you become the one watering seeds that never had the right to live. But if you recognize them, lay them at my feet, and refuse to hold any of the negative emotions within your heart, those seeds die at the very beginning. No seed can grow without care, not even the seeds of a curse. My beloved child, the negative spiritual rituals people often whisper about are only a small part of the reality. The most dangerous forces do not come from rituals. They come from the emotions you hold for too long. Long-nurtured bitterness becomes a ritual. Lingering resentment becomes a self-operating curse. Hatred nurtured in the heart can bind you more tightly than any demonic force. This is why I continually call you back to forgiveness, to examining your heart, to releasing what has weighed you down. Forgiveness does not excuse the one who did wrong. It opens the door for your soul to step out of toxic energy. Others may speak falsely about you, but they cannot decide your spiritual destiny. Others may hurt you, but they cannot touch what I placed inside your soul unless you permit it. Their words may wound you momentarily, but only your acceptance can turn those wounds into lasting chains. I want you to understand this subtle truth, so your soul may remain free. Your decisions also shape the spiritual atmosphere around you with great power. When you choose what is right, even when it is difficult, you open a door of light. When you choose love instead of retaliation, you lift the vibration of your soul to a higher realm. When you choose truth instead of deceit, you strengthen your inner foundation with light. But if you choose to react from pain, you unintentionally pull yourself back into the shadows, the very place I desire to lead you out of. My child, the secret is not found in resisting the darkness, but in understanding that the light within you is stronger than anything others may project toward you. As long as you stand firm in the truth I have placed within your heart, no curse, no judgment, and no malicious act can cross the shield of protection I have laid over your life. My child, when I say that, I break every chain. It is not a gentle metaphor meant to encourage you. It is a spiritual reality unfolding daily in the lives of those who belong to me. No bondage, whether born of toxic words, misguided rituals, or the unconscious mechanisms people impose on one another, can remain standing when my light arrives. All those negative energies, emotional knots, and invisible weights you once believed were part of you are in fact nothing more than layers of dust that time and hurt have allowed to settle upon your soul. When I come, I do not merely blow the dust away, I dissolve the shackles you did not even know you were wearing. You must understand something profound. No negative ritual, whether executed in darkness or carried out with deliberate ill intent, holds any power greater than my will or the identity I have placed in you. What caused you to be affected was never the strength of the ritual itself, but the vulnerability of your soul in that season when you were wounded, unbalanced, or unaware of your true worth. When you do not know who you are, you easily absorb whatever others say about you. When you do not know the authority I have placed within you, you are tempted to believe that someone's threat carries more weight than my word. When you do not know how my light covers you, you may mistakenly think that darkness can find its way into your life. But my child, I break chains not only by power, but by truth. Chains do not snap because of thunder. They dissolve because light exposes everything built on deception. I dismantle the impact of negative rituals not through another ritual, but through my presence, the presence that causes everything not of me to depart. Darkness does not need to be defeated. It simply disappears when the light comes. That is how I set your soul free. Many believe that to escape the effects of distorted rituals or emotional curses, they must seek more ceremonies or practices to counteract them. But I do not want you to chase after such things. I want you to see the truth: you belong to me. And anything that does not originate from me cannot operate over your life indefinitely. That awareness is the first key that unlocks freedom. When you know that I am with you, fear loses its grip. When you know that my work in you is stronger than any influence that ever clung to your soul, confusion releases its hold. When you know that I am the Lord of every season, every circumstance, every decree, you stop believing that anyone has the authority to seal your future shut. The way I break these influences is not complicated. It carries the beauty of holy simplicity. I free you through 3 layers of action: light, truth, and repositioning. Light is when I shine upon the places your soul once hid: old wounds, unhealed memories, emotions you buried because you believed they were insignificant. When light arrives, every shadow loses its power. You no longer see yourself as small or inadequate. You see yourself as loved, chosen, and surrounded by my protection. In that moment, anything that once tried to cling to your soul no longer has any place to hold on to. Truth is when I remind you of the worth I placed within you. The judgments others spoke over you only carried weight because you believed them. But when you embrace the truth that you were created in my image, that your value cannot be measured by anyone, that I have called you by name, then the words of people become nothing more than distant echoes, incapable of defining you. Truth is the sword that severs every invisible knot and every distorted concept you once carried on your shoulders. Repositioning happens when I draw you out of the energetic fields that once held you captive. I do not merely break the chains, I remove you from the very place where those chains existed. I set you in a new position, one marked by peace, by light, and by an awareness of the future I have prepared for you. A soul that has been repositioned will never return to the old territory, because you know you have crossed over, and you are no longer defined or shaped by what used to be. My beloved child, spiritual freedom does not begin with a miracle, it begins with recognition. When you recognize that no darkness has authority over you unless you grant it permission, you have taken your first step into freedom. When you recognize that I am the one standing between you and every layer of toxic energy, you have taken your second step. And when you recognize that you have the power to say no, the power to cut off the influences others attempt to impose on your life, you have reached the threshold of deliverance. Recognition is the foundation of freedom, because truth liberates you from within long before anything changes outwardly. When you know you belong to me, the negative rituals of others lose their effect. When you know that I have placed a hedge of light around you, you no longer feel vulnerable. When you know that my voice carries more power than the words of men, you will no longer be shaken by criticism or rejection. I do not break chains from the outside, as though I must wrestle with a powerful enemy. No, my child, I break the chains from within your soul where every wound is healed, where every distorted memory is corrected, where every toxic word is rendered powerless. When the inside is set free, the outside follows. When your soul is bright, darkness loses its grip. Many seek freedom by changing their environment, their relationships, or their circumstances. But true freedom does not begin by escaping something. It begins by opening your eyes to see truth. Spiritual freedom is not about running away but standing firm. It is not about hiding from darkness but standing under the light I have given you. It is not about hoping negativity disappears but recognizing that it has no authority over you. My child, I want you to remember this. I break every chain, not merely to make you lighter, but to make you stronger. I release you not so you can return to who you once were, but so you can step into the new territories you could not enter before because of invisible restraints. Chains do more than bind the hands, they bind vision, restrict dreams, and suffocate courage. When the chains are broken, your soul is not only free, it expands. And when you stand in that freedom, negative rituals, judgmental words, and the harmful energies of others can no longer touch you. You walk as one who knows they belong to the light. You live as one empowered by awareness. You breathe as one who has come out of darkness. And you look at the future as one who knows the chains have been shattered forever. My child, there is a kind of wisdom no school can teach, no book can fully explain, and no natural experience can truly reach. It is spiritual wisdom, the wisdom that comes from the illumination of the Holy Spirit, the wisdom that is not merely knowledge, but a deep recognition of what lies beneath the surface of things, situations, and people. When the eyes of your spirit open, the picture of your life is no longer a confusion of scattered colors. What once seemed incomprehensible becomes clear. Feelings that once seemed vague finally receive names, and the inner stirrings that have long lingered begin to make sense. You see not only with your eyes but with your spirit. You hear not only with your ears but with your inner discernment. You sense not merely through emotion but through spiritual knowing. You begin to see what I want you to see and avoid what I want you to avoid. Spiritual sight does not mean you gain a strange, supernatural sense. It is more like the moment dawn breaks, when darkness fades and everything finally reveals its true shape. What you once assumed was safe now exposes the subtle dangers beneath it. What you thought was pure sometimes carries hidden intentions, and what you once overlooked may turn out to hold great significance in my divine design. My light does not change things, it simply unveils their true nature. When spiritual light touches your soul, you no longer see through the lens of memory or fear. You see with a spirit that has been awakened. My child, do you remember the times I urged you to distance yourself from certain people? Even when your reasoning found no solid explanation, in those moments, you believed you were being overly sensitive, suspicious, or impulsive. You tried to stay, tried to mend the connection, tried to keep holding on, but the discomfort never left. Your heart tightened each time you thought of them. Conversations with them weighed on your soul, even though outwardly they had done nothing to hurt you. That was not weakness, that was your spiritual vision already activating. You did not understand it yet, but your soul was hearing my warning long before your mind could interpret it. When your spiritual eyes open, you begin to discern that some relationships are divinely appointed, while others are born out of coincidence or worse, out of emotional entanglement set by another person's motives. Not everyone who enters your life carries a blessing. Not everyone who smiles at you truly desires your well-being. Not everyone who draws close is someone I have sent. Some enter for their own benefit. Some come because they see the light in you and want to possess it. Some are pulled toward you because of the wounds within them, and if you do not discern correctly, you will become the place where they unload the pain they refuse to confront. My child, I never separate you from someone out of spite. I separate you to protect you. When I lead you away from a person, it is not because they are evil, but because they are not aligned with the season you are stepping into. There are people who carry no ill intent, yet their energy, their mindset, the way they carry their unhealed sorrow, all of this can disrupt the peace I am cultivating in you. I do not want you to lose what I have planted simply because you hold on to those who do not resonate with your God-given frequency. As your spiritual understanding grows, you begin to perceive what logic often overlooks: resonance. Every soul carries its own vibration. Some people walk into your life and immediately make your heart feel lighter. Others unsettle you even when they say nothing at all. Some bring a sense of peace that cannot be explained. Others exhaust you simply by standing nearby. When your spiritual eyes open, you begin exploring deeper layers of connection. Not everyone who aligns with you in conversation aligns with you in spirit. You will start recognizing the difference between those who walk with you and those who merely walk beside you, between those who share with you and those who draw from you, between those who need you and those who need your light to hide their darkness. And once you see, you cannot pretend you have not seen. Spiritual truth, once revealed, reshapes the way you live, the way you love, the way you choose, and the way you protect your soul. My child, have you ever felt confused when I closed a door you did not want to see shut? Have you ever felt the sting when I removed a relationship you had placed your hopes in? Have you ever felt anger when I caused someone to leave your life? Suddenly, you cannot see everything. But I can. I see what your natural eyes are unable to perceive. I see the wounds that person would inflict on you in the future. I see what they hide behind an appearance of kindness. I see the envy, the selfishness, the possessiveness, the control, or the instability within their spirit. Things you would not discern if you looked at them only through emotion. I do not act according to your feelings. I act according to the preservation of your soul. And something miraculous happens when you step deeper into spiritual understanding. You begin to comprehend. You begin to understand why I once restrained you from sharing too many private things with certain people. You understand why I allowed you to feel uneasy around individuals who seemed so good in your eyes. You understand why I did not let you enter relationships you believed you desperately wanted. You understand why I kept you away from certain groups, certain environments, certain invitations, and certain plans that seemed harmless. When your spiritual eyes open, you no longer feel as if I am taking anything away from you. Instead, you realize that I am protecting you from things you have not yet been able to see. And the most beautiful gift that spiritual discernment brings is peace. Peace in knowing how to distinguish. You are no longer carried by the crowd, nor by fleeting emotions, nor by flattering words. You know who should be allowed into your heart. You know whom you should love from a distance. You know whom you must keep space from. And you know whom I have placed beside you as a gift. My child, spiritual wisdom is not given so that you become suspicious or closed off. It is given so that you may love the right people, invest in the right places, and guard the light I have placed within you. When you look with the eyes of the Spirit, you do not merely see what people present, you see what they conceal. You do not merely hear their words, you hear the vibration beneath their speech. You do not only look at the present, you perceive the direction of the future based on the nature of their soul. As you enter this deeper dimension, you will understand why I once told you, stay away from that person. It was not because you were weak, but because you were strong. It was not because you were unworthy, but because I was lifting you to a place not everyone can go with you. It was not because you lacked value, but because you were being separated from things that do not belong to your new season. My child, I want you to know that in my kingdom, there is no such thing as coincidence, no event without meaning, and no journey without purpose. My timing is not the same as yours. Heavenly timing is not bound by human calculations or the shifting currents of circumstance. It moves to the rhythm of eternity, a rhythm you can only perceive when you listen with your soul. And when you grow sensitive to the Spirit, you will realize that what you thought was late was actually unfolding at the precise, perfect moment for your growth and your rising. You think I am delaying, but in truth, I am preparing. You think I am silent, but in truth, I am aligning. You think I am stepping back, but in truth, I am drawing you into a sacred space that only stillness can unlock. My timing never arrives too early or too late. It comes when your soul is strong enough to carry the blessing I have already written for you, and steady enough to stand in the new light that will rest upon you. When a new season approaches, your soul always senses it first, before your eyes see it. Your heart has already received the signal. Before anything shifts externally, something within you has already turned. These signals do not announce themselves loudly. They are not dramatic or explosive like fireworks. They come gently, quietly, like the wind stirring before a great rain, like soft waves rising just before the tide rolls in. There are signs so subtle, so delicate, that if you live only through logic, you will overlook them. But if you live through spiritual awakening, you will recognize them at once. One of the earliest signals of a new season is a sacred restlessness. It is not fear. It is the sense that something greater is drawing near. You cannot explain it. Yet deep within, something begins to shift. You find yourself uneasy in environments that once felt familiar. You begin to sense that you no longer fit with things that once defined you. Old desires suddenly lose their flavor, while the spiritual longings you once ignored rise again with unexpected strength. This is the sign that your soul is moving to a new frequency, a higher place where the old things can no longer accompany you. The second signal appears when I show you the fractures in relationships that no longer belong to your future. Conversations fall out of rhythm. Things you once easily overlooked now press heavily upon your heart. You notice a deep misalignment, even though no one has done anything wrong. This is my gentle way of pulling you out of places that no longer nourish your soul. When you see this, do not be alarmed. It is how I separate you from what would hinder the spiritual elevation that is coming. The third signal comes when you begin to see clearly what you previously sensed only vaguely. Fleeting intuitions become sharp. Quiet warnings within your heart grow unmistakable. What you once dismissed as just a feeling now becomes small revelations guiding your steps. Your soul is no longer drowned out by the noise around you. It can discern my holy voice without effort. This is a sure sign that your spiritual sight is widening, and that you are entering a deeper season of divine discernment. Another important signal is a profound longing for the things of mine. You find yourself desiring my presence more than anything else. Everything else begins to lose its appeal, its color, its ability to satisfy. The old pleasures no longer fulfill you. Shallow things no longer sway you. Something pulls you toward me like an invisible cord, like a call echoing from a holy distance. This is the sign that you are being lifted into an entirely new depth of spiritual intimacy. My beloved child, I give you another signal, an unusual sensitivity to things that do not belong to me. You begin to recognize negativity before it reaches you. You see the falseness behind kind words. You sense the distortion in atmospheres that appear peaceful. You know when someone is hiding their true motives. This is not suspicion, it is divine discernment, one of the clearest signs that you are about to enter a new phase in my plan. And there is another signal that many fail to recognize: the closing of a cycle. As a new season approaches, the old one closes gently and naturally. No force is needed, no striving. Doors that once stood open begin to close softly. Opportunities that once moved toward you become still. Relationships that once overflowed with passion become distant. Not because you did anything wrong, not because you were abandoned, but because that cycle has completed its purpose. I use the silence of the old to prepare space for what is new. There is a principle of divine timing that you must engrave into your heart. Inner shifting always precedes outer transformation. When your soul rises, circumstances will align. When your mind is renewed, doors will open. When you are prepared from within, blessings will appear at the appointed time, never the other way around. And when these signals begin to appear one after another, you will understand that you are no longer in a phase of vague waiting. You are standing at the threshold of a true new season. I do not let you step into a new season in confusion. I lead you in with layers of illumination beforehand, so that you are not surprised, not afraid, not disoriented, but able to walk forward with the certainty that you are being guided by heaven. My child, I want you to learn this one truth when I act. My timing is never wrong. When I open a path, no one can close it. When I call you into a new season, the entire spiritual atmosphere adjusts itself to place you exactly where you need to be. A closed door may wound you for a moment, but in the heavenly realm it is always a sign that a greater door is being prepared. A new season is not merely an outward shift, it is an inner ascension. And once you begin to sense that stirring, you must prepare yourself, because every old restraint will fall away, every delay will dissolve, and every word spoken over your life will begin to move into fulfillment. My child, when I placed the gift of free will into your hands, I did not give it to you as a burden but as an honor. Throughout the vast created order, countless beings live by instinct, acting according to the natural order I established. Only humanity, those souls bearing my image, was entrusted with the power to choose. This is not a small privilege. It is a power that causes the heavens to listen. And when a soul says yes to me, it is not a quiet response whispered from human lips. It is a vibration that resounds through the unseen realm, causing angels, spiritual currents, and the very pages of heavenly plans to shift into motion. You must understand that every decision you make carries far greater influence than you realize. On earth, it may look like nothing more than a step, a choice, an investment, or a simple word. But in the heavens, it opens or closes spiritual currents. The freedom I entrusted to you is not separate from the destiny I designed for you. It is the very key that allows you to step into the portion I intended. Every choice creates a new path, bringing you nearer to or further from what I long to give. I honor your choices so deeply that I never force you. I invite, I whisper, I stir your heart, but I do not drag you by force. I do not use my power to erase your freedom. I extend an invitation, and you decide, and that decision becomes the confirmation that causes the heavens to realign. My child, how many times have you believed that destiny is a fixed, unchangeable script? Yet I tell you, destiny is a blueprint, and your choices are the steps that give that blueprint form. Without the steps, nothing takes shape. Without the yes, nothing moves. Without your agreement, the heavens impose nothing upon your life. I have the power to do all things, but I choose not to act in ways that bypass your will because I want you to enter your destiny as a participant, not as someone being pulled along. When your soul says, "Yes, Lord, I agree with your will," the heavens begin to shift. Angels are reassigned to new positions. Doors that were locked are reset. Invisible barriers are dismantled. The arrangements concerning your future begin to fall into alignment, not because of your strength, but because that yes opens a new flow. And that flow always carries the power to accomplish what I have ordained. My child, there is a mystery few ever perceive when you choose what is right. Heaven moves closer to you. Every choice is a signal, one that reaches me, one that reaches the angels, and one that reaches the darkness. When you choose light, darkness loses its claim. When you choose truth, deception loses its ground. When you choose forgiveness, the chains around your soul shatter. When you choose to walk with me, you change the spiritual atmosphere around you in ways you cannot see. You once believed that only great decisions shape destiny. But I tell you, even the quietest decisions are creating a hidden current that pushes you toward the future I wrote for you. A small act of love can unlock a great door. A sincere prayer can make the highest heaven tremble. A private act of obedience can release a chain of miracles whose origin no one will understand. For heaven does not wait for you to do something grand. Heaven waits for you to agree with me. My child, I do not merely respect your freedom. I work through it. I will not place you in places you refuse to go. I will not make you love what you do not want to love. I will not usher you into a new season while your heart clings tightly to the old one. Your yes is the door that allows me to step into your territory, to build, to arrange, to heal, and to lift you into the fullness I have prepared. My child, you must also understand this. Every wrong choice you make does not cause me to abandon you. It merely lengthens the road beneath your feet. I can take every detour, every failure, every stumble in your journey and redirect them into the main current of your destiny. You cannot destroy the plan I have written for you, but you can delay it. You cannot erase the blessing I have prepared for you, but you can cause yourself to take the longer path. And that is not because I punish you, but because you choose a different way, one that I honor until the moment you say yes, allowing me to lead you back. Imagine destiny as a great river. I am the one who drew its course, but whether you move with its main current or swim toward smaller branches is your choice. Each time you say yes, you return to the central flow. Each time you surrender to me, the waters grow stronger. Each time you trust me, stones collapse. Debris is carried away. Narrow bends widen. and the path ahead becomes clear. And when that current becomes powerful, you will feel yourself carried by a force you did not generate. That is the force of the heavenly realm, my child. I want you to grasp that a yes is not merely a word. It is the movement of the soul. It is the shift within your spiritual field. It is the yielding of your heart to the one who sees farther than you. It is the loosening of fear and the granting of authority for me to act fully in your life. When a soul truly says yes, it does not only open the door for blessing, it opens the door for transformation. People often ask, "Does God need my yes?" And I answer, no. I do not need it, but you do. Because that yes is the bridge that connects you back to the flow of destiny. Without that bridge, the river still exists, but you stand on the opposite shore. When you choose to step across, the heavens take that step and amplify it many times over. My child, in order for you to understand how heaven moves when I speak, you must first understand that the universe was not created merely by matter, it was created by the Word. When I utter a command, it is not only sound that goes forth, spiritual authority is embedded into every syllable. Every realm, every angel, every spiritual current responds to my word just as the sea responds to the wind. My word does not merely carry intent, it carries decree. No power in the visible or invisible realms can remain unmoved when my voice goes forth. When I speak, everything begins to shift instantly, even if human eyes cannot yet perceive it. At times you think I am silent, when in truth heaven has been active from the moment my command was released. You do not see it because you have not yet stepped into the frequency where those movements manifest. You believe I am slow, but you do not see the millions of alignments being restructured to lead you into the new path. In the spiritual realm, time does not function the way you understand it. There, commands are executed immediately. I need only speak once, and the entire heavens adjust. Angels do not wait to deliberate. They do not hesitate. They do not convene to discuss. When I command, they go. When I send an angel to protect you, that angel does not calculate difficulty. When I order a spiritual mountain blocking your way to be removed, that mountain begins dissolving at once. When I declare, the time has come, every opposing force is displaced, and what has long been shut begins to open on its own. My child, there is something you must know. Heaven is never slow. What appears slow is the process of aligning your soul with what I am bringing into your life. Heaven moves at the speed of spiritual light, while your soul often walks at the pace of an old season. So when I speak, heaven completes its part swiftly. The remaining part is you, stepping into that completion. That is why I seek your cooperation, not because I am weak, but because I honor the free will I have given you. The spiritual mechanism behind my word behaves like a wave of resonance spreading through the heavens. Every decree is like a stream of power released from the throne, flowing through all spiritual dimensions, touching everything connected to your destiny. It touches the door that must open. It touches the person who will enter your life. It touches the circumstances you never knew were connected. It touches memories, the past, the future. Everything falls into the correct alignment. I do not move one thing. I move all things connected to what I intend to give you. When I say, enter the new season, not only are you elevated, but the environment around you is lifted as well. When I say, come out of this, the old structures begin to unravel on their own, even before you lay a hand on them. When I say, you will meet the one I have prepared for you, that person is also reshaped by heaven, rerouted, awakened, repositioned, and recalibrated to match the timing assigned to your life. My child, I want you to contemplate this. Heaven does not move according to your emotions, it moves according to my word. And once my word has been spoken, no force in existence can reverse it. The only thing that can delay its current is when you still allow your self-will to sit on the throne. When you have not yet said, yes, but if you step into surrender, you will witness something wondrous. What once required years to build will suddenly fall into place in a moment. What you thought was dead will come alive again. What was delayed will be released. The entire spiritual atmosphere will open as if it had been waiting for that moment all along. My child, as you step into a new phase of your spiritual journey, I want you to understand that restoration is not a reward for the strong, nor is it compensation for those who have suffered much. Restoration is my very nature. When you draw near to me, you draw near to restoration. When your soul softens before me, everything that was stolen, worn down, wounded, or buried beneath time begins to tremble back to life like seeds touched by the first rain of the season. The land into which I am leading you now is unlike any land you have ever stood on. It is not merely a place of hope. It is not simply a place of peace. This is a land of rebuilding, a place where what was shattered will be made new, where what had withered will rise again, where the scattered fragments of the past are gathered and shaped into something far more beautiful than the original. This is not a single miracle, this is a season of miracles, a continuous stream of blessing, a sacred rhythm your soul is just beginning to discern. My child, many times you have believed that restoration means receiving everything back exactly as it was, but I tell you, restoration in my kingdom is never a duplication. It is an elevation. I do not bring you back to where you once were. I bring you to a higher place, where what was lost is returned in a way that is abundant, overflowing, astonishing. Nothing in my hands is restored to the level of good enough. Every restoration I give carries the imprint of fullness. For my nature is not to repay merely in measure, but to return in abundance. My beloved child, before restoration appears outwardly, it always begins within the soul. You must allow me to heal the inside before I restore what is on the outside. I never place new blessings in your hands while your heart is still torn from old wounds. If I gave a great blessing while your heart still carried open fractures, the blessing would become a burden, and so I go first into the deepest layers of your soul. I place my finger upon the places you have hidden, the places you hesitate to touch, the memories you have long wished to forget. I do not do this to revive pain, but to heal it, to restore it, to set you free. When you surrender those wounds to me, your soul begins to lighten. When you release old disappointments, your eyes begin to open. When you let go of the fear of being hurt again, you start to feel the gentle comfort of new peace. I do not ask you for perfection. I ask you to open. And when you open, the current of restoration begins, filling the spaces that sorrow once carved inside you. My child, I want you to understand that in this new land, restoration does not come from your striving, it comes from my recreation. You do not need to chase after what was lost. You do not need to repair what has been broken. You do not need to dig through old memories trying to find where everything went wrong. When I restore, I do not send you back to the place where you collapsed. I simply ask you to give me your hand so I can lead you forward. I work through light, not through darkness. I heal through presence, not through analysis. I restore through love, not through accusation. There are things you believed were gone forever, but nothing is truly lost in my hands. There are dreams you thought had died, but I place them into a season, waiting for the right time. There are opportunities you believed you had missed, but I am preparing greater versions of them to give you when your heart is ready. There are relationships you thought were too broken to mend, but I can breathe life into what appears lifeless. I am not confined by the past. I am not held hostage by wounds. I am the one who makes all things new. My child, the land of restoration is also a land of separation. You cannot carry everything from the old season into the new one. You cannot hold on to people I have already released from your life. You cannot cling to thoughts that once weighed you down. I do not bring you into restoration so you can drag old burdens with you. True restoration begins the moment you agree to set down what no longer belongs to your future. That is the act of courage, the soul's agreement with heaven, and the first sign that you have stepped onto higher ground. My child, when you step into the land of restoration, you will recognize the difference immediately. The atmosphere around you changes. The things that once sent you into panic no longer make you tremble. The worries that used to dominate your mind begin dissolving like mist under the morning sun. The voices that once made you doubt yourself lose their weight completely. For restoration does not merely heal wounds, it transforms the way you see the entire world. You will find yourself becoming wider, deeper, and steadier. You will feel old dreams rising again, not as shadows from the past, but as confirmation that God has never forgotten them. You will discover abilities within you, opening up like doors you never knew you had. You will sense your faith no longer shaking. It becomes a solid foundation. You begin believing for greater things, not because you are optimistic, but because your soul has been restored to remember to whom you belong. My child, I bring you into this land not only to heal you, but to prepare you for increase. Restoration is the beginning of multiplication. Whatever I restore, I multiply. Whatever I renew, I cause to flourish. Whatever I return to you, I enrich. You will not merely see again what you once lost. You will behold a version of it that is mature, radiant, and far more sacred than before. And as you stand on this land of restoration, you will understand that every tear shed in the old season was a seed for the new one. Every loss that once broke you became soil for something greater. Every ending you feared was simply preparation for a beginning. I never allow pain to be meaningless. I build it into the foundation of the glory that is coming. Now, pray as follows, Lord, the one who sees beyond the limits of my natural understanding. Today I come before you with a heart completely open. Touch the eyes of my spirit so that I may perceive what you desire to reveal, subtle signs, spiritual movements, gentle warnings I once overlooked. Let me see what you see, hear what you speak, and sense what you are doing in the heavenly realm. Do not allow me to live only by intellect, but by divine illumination. May my eyes no longer be veiled by fear, memory, or personal limitation. Let my spiritual sight widen until I can recognize your will, even in the smallest moments. Lord, amid the countless voices of the world, of emotions, of memories, and of my own ego, teach me to discern the holy sound of your voice. Quiet every chaotic noise. Silence every whisper of fear and doubt, until only the gentle yet powerful resonance of your presence remains within me. Teach me to listen not merely with my ears but with my soul. Help me recognize your voice through peace, through light, through truth, through love. And whether your words comfort me or correct me, let my heart know it is always the voice of my Father, and let me respond with humility and complete trust. Lord, my deliverer, touch every place in my soul that has been bound by cruel words, false beliefs, condemned emotions, or invisible curses. Break every chain that has weighed me down, whether it came from others or from wounds I carried for too long. Cut away the attachments I did not know I was holding. Restore to me the full freedom you designed for my life. Let your light enter every dark corner, dissolve every shadow, and mend every fragment within me. I place my soul into your hands, and I ask you to do what only you can do. Lord, I lift to you every wound that has come from the words, actions, and unintentional harm of others. Please remove from me every negative residue left behind by unhealthy connections. Draw out from my soul the arrows of judgment, coldness, rejection, envy, and every invisible weight that has pressed upon my heart. Free me from the tangled places in my emotions that I cannot untie on my own. Restore to me perfect peace and help me move forward without carrying the echoes of what once hurt me. Father, I offer you my will and my yes. Align my heart so that I choose what you choose, love what you love, and let go of what you ask me to release. Shape my thoughts so they are no longer led by fear, lack, or wounded pride. May your will rise above my own. Let this surrender become the doorway through which heaven moves in my life, reopening what has been shut, and guiding me into the exact timing of my destiny. Lord, God of every season, lead me out of impatience and into your divine timing. Help me see that not a single moment of my life is random. Open my heart to recognize the subtle signs that precede elevation. Give me wisdom to know when an old season has ended and when a new one begins. Lead me into spiritual precision so that every step I take is aligned with the right realm, the right position, and the right moment that heaven has already arranged. Father, I invite you into the collapsed places within my soul, into the wounds I have carried, the dreams I once laid down, and the disappointments I have hidden. Rebuild, restore, and renew everything inside me. Restore what was stolen, return what I thought was lost forever, and strengthen my soul beyond what it once was. Make me into a version of myself I never dared believe I could become. Lord, as I enter the new territory, grant me an awakened heart, a sensitive spirit, and ears that discern your voice. Keep me from relationships that weaken my soul. Keep me from voices that do not come from you. Keep me from things that look good but are not from heaven. Help me recognize the ones you send and stay away from those you have not appointed. Let me not wander because of outward allure, but step securely into what you are guiding me toward. Father, with simple yet wholehearted faith, I open the way for miracles in my life. Break every delay. Activate the divine flow that has been waiting for me to step into alignment. Let every good thing you have ordained for me, once hindered by fear or hesitation, now be released. Let blessings not only touch my life but overflow to those around me. Make me a channel through which your power and your life can flow freely. Lord, I do not seek partial restoration. I seek the complete restoration that only you can give. Restore my strength, my joy, my peace, my calling, and the dreams that were stolen. Let the things that once broke me become the rock upon which I stand firm. Turn every loss into a testimony. Renew my heart so deeply that I no longer recognize the old version of myself when I look back at past seasons. Beloved Father, you know me better than I know myself. I place my life at the center of your will. Lead me to the doors you have appointed. Bring me to the place my soul was born to stand. Let me walk in light, in authority, in wisdom, in compassion, and in holiness. Keep me from straying from the portion you have written for me, and guide me into the divine plan crafted down to its finest detail. I give you my yes, a full and holy yes, so that my destiny may realign with the destiny you ordained from the beginning. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.